Welcome to Delphic Memories. Tonight we will be discussing a haunting listed by a CBS News article as one of the 6 most haunted houses in the United States. Along one of the many canals in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, you will find one of the most haunted houses in South Florida, perhaps the most haunted house. The Stranahan House was the home of Frank and Ivy Stranahan, who helped establish Fort Lauderdale in the early 1900s. The house is now a museum where people can take a 2-hour guided tour of the home and learn its history. It is said that the Stranahan House is haunted by 6 different spirits. I will list them all for you, but on this episode, we will be focusing on only one. The 6 spirits said to haunt the home are as follows. The owners, Frank and Ivy Stranahan. People have claimed to witness seeing a man all dressed in white walk out of the front of the house and jump into the canal. After the stock market crash of 1929, Frank went in debt and also went into a massive depression. He tied a tire iron to himself and jumped into the canal that went right in front of his home called the New River. People claimed to see Ivy all over the grounds of the home and also smell the perfume that she used to love to wear. She passed away much later in life and was known for being very vivacious and just full of life. The 3rd spirit said to roam the Stranahan house is Ivy's father, Augustus, who died in the home. The last 3 spirits are Ivy's sister, her brother, and a little Seminole girl who died of dehydration and exhaustion walking from the Seminole village to the Stranahan house. As I mentioned before, we're going to primarily focus on one spirit that's said to haunt the home out of the 6, and that is Ivy's sister, Pink. Pink's story is a tragic one, like so many ghost stories. I learned about all the spirits of the Stranahan house when I attended a ghost tour of Fort Lauderdale. I was intrigued when I heard the tour guide tell Pink's story, and I wanted to investigate for myself. Before I get into my own experience in the Stranahan house, let me tell you about Pink Cromartie Moss. Pink was in her late 30s when she met Randall Moss. In the 1920s, a woman that was unmarried was considered an old maid if she was in her 30s or later. I'm sure Pink began to wonder if she would ever even find love at her age. And then, one day, in walks Randall Moss. Randall Moss was a land spectator who came down from New Jersey, and he often made trips back and forth between Florida and New Jersey, selling summer homes and land to residents of New Jersey who wanted to come and spend the cold winters down in sunny Florida. He came to talk business that day with Frank Stranahan, but he became captivated by Frank's sister-in-law, Pink. The two fell in love and quickly married. Randall was often away for weeks at a time on business trips in New Jersey. Pink, unfortunately, had several miscarriages and was very desperate to have a child. At the age of 41, Pink finally made it past her first trimester, and she was 7 months pregnant, and she was ecstatic. The last night of Pink's life, tragedy struck in a way that no one could imagine or foresee. Pink's sister and her brother-in-law, the Stranahans, were having a party to welcome some visitors to town who had come down from New Jersey. Everything was going very well until Pink came downstairs to the party. Ivy introduced her sister as Pink Moss. The visitors said, "Oh, Moss, we know a few Moss families. Who is your husband?" And Pink answered proudly that Randall Moss was her husband. There was some initial confusion, but it turned out that these visitors knew Randall Moss, and they also knew his wife. His wife lived in New Jersey with his 3 kids. Pink was absolutely stunned to find out that the love of her life had been living a double life and deceived her. When he would leave to go on his long business trips, he was actually going back to see his own family in New Jersey. Within minutes of hearing this devastating news, Pink began having contractions, and she ended up giving birth to a stillborn baby right there in the living room. Her bleeding was tremendous, and she ended up dying about a week later. Obviously from the childbirth, but some say from a broken heart as well. Mr. Randall Moss was never seen in South Florida again. The year that she died was 1927. Pink is one of the spirits said to still haunt this house. People have reported seeing her in the windows holding her baby. Paranormal investigators claim to have collected a recording of Pink's voice. And there was an investigation that claimed to have a possible possession by Pink into one of the attendees at a nighttime seance that they had at the house. After hearing Pink's story, I had to see for myself if she was really there. I know going in the daytime would lessen my chances of any type of encounter, but that was the only time that the museum gave tours. I dragged my husband along and excitedly paid for our tickets. The tour was very lovely and informative, but about an hour in, I just grew impatient and wandered away from the group, and I went upstairs. My husband went with me, but he headed straight for the gift shop, and he began to look around, and I walked from room to room, letting myself just take in every detail. I have to mention at this point that I was about 5 months pregnant. The very last room I entered was a small guest room. As soon as I walked into the room, the energy just felt different. The air felt thick and almost electric. I'm a toucher, and I have to touch everything for some reason, and the first thing I did was I went straight to the bed, and I ran my hand across the top of the comforter of the bed. And suddenly I felt a sharp pain in my belly, and I grabbed my stomach, and I became immediately frightened. Still in pain, I ran out of the room and into the hallway, and the pain suddenly stopped. And I saw my husband in the gift shop, and I told him, we have to leave now. He asked me what was wrong, but I didn't want to answer him in front of the gift shop attendee. I didn't want them to think I was crazy. I mean, I'm sure maybe they've heard stories, but in that moment, I just wanted to get out of this house. So I told him what happened when we left the building and we were heading towards the car. I didn't understand what the pain was until months later when I had contractions before my son was actually born. Looking back, I wonder if that was Pink showing me what she felt that night when she actually lost her baby. The experience was very frightening and now makes me more cautious of investigating haunted locations. But as strange as this sounds, it also made me feel grateful. Grateful for having a confirmation in my belief that there is something beyond this life, something beyond this realm that we call Earth. Thank you so much for listening to Delphic Memories. Please check back every week for a new episode. Welcome to Delphic